Warning: the following episode contains elements of horror that may be unsuitable for listeners under the age of 13. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, we've been expecting you. I'm Brianna, and welcome to Beyond the Bazaar's 13 Nights of Frights. From October 19th through October 31st, Halloween night, we will be sharing with you some of our favorite hand-picked urban legends, lore, stories, and more that we love to talk about during this special time of year. So take a seat, make yourself comfortable for these 13 nights of terror. Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Feels great to be able to say that again. Welcome back to Beyond the Bazaar. I'm Brianna, your host, and here we are at the second night of our 13 Nights of Frights. Yesterday, we talked about the number 13 and how many people believe it's an unlucky number and how there's a lot of superstition that circles around that number. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that on the forefront may seem like it's a bit brighter than that, but not really so much. We're going to talk about popular children's songs and nursery rhymes that many of us may have sung as children, but most people do not know that most of those nursery rhymes and children's songs have very, very, very dark meanings. When I first started researching this, initially I knew of a handful that, well, I'm not gonna say a handful, maybe around one or two, that I knew had a dark meaning. But when I started doing research, I couldn't believe just the different, almost every single children's song has some type of weird or dark undertone to it. So it's not just something that is so innocent, and when you hear it being sung by kids, you're like, okay, well, this is just, a cute song, seeing kids sing and dance to. But when you find the hidden meaning, it's kind of cringe-worthy to say the least. But yes, there are many children's songs out here that have those dark undertones that most of us were not made privy to early in life. And I've actually went through and kind of picked out my, don't want to say favorite ones, but the ones that I knew that I had sung when I was a kid. And when I found out the true meaning, I was just like, oh my goodness, that's super dark. But at the same time, it's interesting because a lot of it comes from history. So I felt the need to share it with you guys. So I'm going to share with you guys a few that I picked out. But before I do get into it, I do want to give our disclaimer that I usually forget to give. So if you're under the age of 13, once again, just ask your parent or guardian for permission before listening, or listen with your parent or guardian. Listener discretion is advised for our episodes. So with that being said, let's get into it. Then the first one I'm going to share with you guys is Ring Around the Rosies. Now, for you guys' sake, I'm not going to sing any of these songs, but most of them I feel are popular enough for you all to know or have heard at some point. So, pretty much how Ring Around the Rosies goes is ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. So, the Ring Around the Rosies nursery rhyme or children's song is about the bubonic plague, or the Black Death, whichever you prefer to call it. For those of you who don't know what the bubonic plague or the Black Death is. It was a plague that swept through Europe in the 14th century, and it killed an estimated 25 million people. To have a song that I don't want to say so much as I don't want to say the song is mocking it, because I don't think that's what the song was created for. I think that it was created in essence as a way of the children that were experiencing this, a way of them coping, with a way of them coping with it. And in essence, I believe that this song, as well as the other songs that I'm going to go over with you guys, is kind of a way of keeping that piece of history current. Like anytime a kid sings Ring Around the Rosies, Pocket Full of Posies, Ashes, Ashes, we all fall down. Even though they may not directly know what it's about, it's still keeping that piece of history, even though it was terrible. It's keeping that piece of history in today's time. So back to the lyrics of the song. When the song mentions Ring Around the Rosies, it is said that that part of the song refers to the red rash that the plague victims would have. So a red ring means the red rash that the plague victims often had when they were fighting for their lives, trying to overcome the illness. And back in that time, of course, understandably, everyone was deathly afraid of catching the bubonic plague. And I think we can all relate to that due to the current situation that we're in right now with coronavirus, COVID 19. Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that COVID 19 is like the bubonic plague, but I think we can all kind of relate to the mindset that they had. Pocket full of posies refers to the herbs that the people kept in their pockets to ward off illnesses. So they felt that certain herbs would ward off the illness if they would ever come in contact with it. Kind of like how we wear masks and use hand sanitizer more often than we wore before, just being more conscious of it. So they were being more conscious of, hey, I know these herbs have healing properties or protectives, things that can help our bodies fight if we were to catch it. So that was really interesting. And once again, it's kind of how you can kind of identify through the different parallels of situations. Because I can tell you, I would have never thought in my lifetime that I would be able to draw a current situation and compare it to the plague, but here we go. Here we are. And of course, the ashes to ashes part is ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and we all fall down. I mean, you kind of know what that means. It means death. So, like I said, this is probably, I'm not gonna say one of the darkest, but I'm not gonna say the darkest, but it is one of the darkest. But it was my first one I wanted to share because it was the first one that was ever brought to my attention that it had a different meaning other than what I initially thought. So that makes sense that it had to be the first on the list. The second one is London Bridge. Now, for London Bridge, I wasn't really able to find a lot of connections with the lyrics, but I was able to, through research, find that it refers to the destruction of the London Bridge by Norwegian King Olaf II back in 1014. So this song has made it through time, through history. Once again, just keeping those events alive and in current time. And I really do feel, as I read more and do research more, that it's kind of just a way of kids pretty much, I'm not gonna say coping, but just pretty much relaying what they see. Kids are known not to have filters, so it makes sense that yes, these events may be tragic and it's sometimes even dark, but kids, especially young children, don't really have those filters to know what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So to make a song about it is it's kind of like the perfect, and dare I say, normal thing for a child to do. Moving on to our next one, Jack and Jill. The song goes, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and lost his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. With this one, as a kid, you may think, oh, it's just about a guy and a girl going up a hill and rolling back down. Well, it actually refers to the beheading of King Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette. So, once again, a song about a dark part of history. So, Jack going up the hill, or Jack and Jill going up the hill, refers to Marie and King Louis II going up to the guillotine. Jack fell down and lost his crown refers to Louis' beheading, because he was beheaded before Marie Antoinette, and then Jill came tumbling after. Marie was beheaded shortly after her husband. So once again, yeah, I can't. This is actually one of my favorite songs to sing as a kid. I'm not gonna lie, like, because when I was younger, my grandmother had this house. We had really, really large hills, and then we would all run up the hill, and we would all run up the hill and roll back down, singing that song. Just to think that it was made or influenced by the death and the so gruesome death of someone. It's a bit dark, and as I stated before, a bit cringeworthy as well. Now, the next one I want to share is not so much as, I would say, dark, but it's a little sad in my opinion. So the next one is This Old Man. So the lyrics to This Old Man is a bit lengthy, so I'm just going to give you guys the first verse, and it may sound familiar once you hear it. This old man, he played one, he played knick-knack on my thumb, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, this old man came rolling home. So a lot of you may be familiar with that song. I know that I am. I grew up a Barney kid, so a lot of these songs I actually learned from Barney, and just the fact that it had all these dark meanings is just really mind-boggling. But with this one, This Old Man is actually, once again, derived from England. A lot of these I find actually come from England, but it derived from the influx of Irish beggars going from door to door in England following the potato famine. The song is pretty much about beggars coming into the town asking for help, needing money. So that's why I said it's kind of not so much as a dark one. I mean, it's dark, but it's also very sad. So when the song mentions knickknacks, it refers to the selling of knickknacks by poor Irishmen, or the playing of a rhyme called a knickknack in hopes of getting money. So they would play music in hopes that someone would give them money. In the song, where it says paddywhack, it refers to the paddy wagons that were driven by Irish cops, or at times the Irishmen who would consume alcohol and be drunken. The paddy wagons would be filled with them as well. So that's where the term paddywhack in the song comes from. As for the term rolling home, it alludes to the Irishman once he have gotten his earnings for the day from the knickknacks or whatever, playing knickknacks or just selling them, he gets more money to get alcohol to drink. So this song just kind of alludes to the beggars only wanting money to drink, but not necessarily want money to better themselves or to get something. They just wanted it for the sole reason of alcohol, which I think was a really, really, really sad thing, since everyone was probably suffering during that potato famine. I guess I just kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, so I'm just kind of sensitive about things like that. And I'm not gonna say it's not one of my favorites by any means. It used to be when I was a kid. I used to line up and sing it, but now knowing where it truly comes from, it's just kind of saddening to me. But I wanted to share it because it's one of the most popular, and a lot of people probably don't know exactly where it comes from. Now, the last one I want to share is Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary. So this one I also found was kind of dark and cruel in a ways. The nursery rhyme of Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary is a metaphor for Queen Mary I of England, who rose to power following the death of her father, King Henry VIII. So in the song, it says, Mary, Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? The garden is a dig at the fact that it's well known that Mary the first cannot have kids. So I think it's very, very dark, especially for children, to have a song poking fun at the fact that a woman is not able to have children. I thought that was very, very, very cruel. Like I said, I wear my heart on my sleeve. Most people may not think anything of it, but I'm just like, that's just mean. And the song Quite Contrary kind of nods to the fact that she tried to stop the Protestant movement that was started by her father. And not to give you all a history lesson, but Queen Mary the First of England was a strict Roman Catholic. She detested Protestantism. She wanted to reestablish Catholicism that her father dismantled because he wanted to get a divorce, and the Catholic Church would not allow him to. I'm not going to get into everything else. I can go on a rant all day because history is also another love of mine. But anyway, that's where the song Mary, Mary, Quite Contrary comes from. And as I said, most of these, I'm not going to say most, actually, all of them came from England, which does make sense, especially since England is a lot of influence, especially within America, you know, pre-revolutionary, of course, but still has a lot of influence. A lot of those songs have carried over through generations from people who came over of English descent and have shared it through generations, and they're even popular now. Like even on kids shows today, like I said, back in the 90s through the Barney era all the way through now to current kid TV shows, you can still hear these songs ring around the Rosies, This Old Man, all these songs, Rub a Dub Dub. I didn't include that on the episode, but I may make a separate post about it on our website because that one was weird to say the least, and I may include a post. Like I said, I found many of them, so I may end up making a separate post on our website, www.beyondthebazaar.com, and share some more with you guys. I just kind of picked out a handful of my favorites here to share on our 13 Nights of Frights. And I know tonight's episode may have not have been the creepy episodes that you guys are all used to, but I thought it was something that's a little bit bizarre because yes, although we love horror and things like that, we also want to get into sharing things that may not necessarily be horror-esque or scary, but it's still kind of creepy or borders along the lines of unusual. We want to get into sharing more of that. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode and the second night of 13 Nights of Frights. Tomorrow we will be discussing a popular urban legend that comes from Japan, known as Lavender Town Syndrome. So come back tomorrow for our third night of 13 Nights of Frights. Until then, as always, stay bizarre.